YouTube? How is everybody doing? Welcome to the grand final. That is right. We've been waiting for this for 2.5 months. We've been watching these alliances duke it out one after the other. We started with 512 alliances. 512 alliances competing to make it out of the group stage into the playoffs mode. And in there, we saw 32 kingdoms duking it out, and 16 made it to the final playoffs. And from there, we every single week cut that number in half until we finally reached the final 4, the final 2, and today we will find out who is the final 1. The champions of season 1 of Osiris League will be crowned today. And boy, oh boy, I'm through the roof about this right now. This is the most exciting matchup we've been waiting on for so long. The dark horses of this whole tournament, Ovie, the overlords, made their way through and through. Slowly and steadily, we got to meet them. We got to find out who they are, how they play, and we were all amazed by what we saw. We could not expect anything as clean, methodic, and strong as Ovie have shown us and surprised us with. And against them come up the one and only JWM, the alliance that came into this as the clear favorite from the beginning, in the sense of every single match they had the bets in their favor, their community on their side, while Ovie had to go through the underdog route. And for this match, they are looking for the same type of situation. We are looking at a very, very strong community sentiment towards JWM, but Ovie have lived through this whole tournament. That's how they got here, with the exception of the last match that just happened last week. Ovie were the underdogs throughout the whole tournament, and so to expect them to come back out of this is something we've already kind of gotten used to, right? These guys always ride against that adversity of the community vote and end up topping the match. Who are Ovie? The folks of Ovie are no joke. They come from Kingdom 52. It looks like they had a very solid run through the playoffs. You can see a list of alliances they've knocked out of the tournament, the last 3 being top 32 alliances in Osiris League. Again, as previously mentioned in previous casts, these guys come in with a power of 2.27 billion power, but not exactly as has been mentioned in the last cast. This is a this is from way back way. This is a number that's been frozen in time for 2 months. Everything's changed since. Ovie might have powered up, and so might have JWM, or the other way around, as these guys went through lost kingdoms and had their tough fights and oppositions within them. And today, they might be coming in with a lot more firepower than that, or much less. Another reminder is that Ovie throughout the tournament had to fight off healing. They've healed a substantial amount throughout the whole tournament. And do they have enough left in the gas for one more match? These kinds of heals require massive commitment from the whole top 30 in that lineup. And so hopefully these guys still have more speed ups in the tank, because I truly think we can have an amazing fight in here. But they're going up against the biggest alliance in the game, in the sense that they have been either the biggest one at some point or another for the majority of the time this game has existed. As of today, they are, in terms of a single alliance, potentially the strongest one, but there are bigger kingdoms that have power dispersed across many alliances. These are none other than JWM, the JWM train, one that I still have train tracks running across from me from when I met them in Lost Kingdom Season 1, and these guys have changed from then. We're looking at some of the cleanest strategies. These guys did not have the biggest and best matches in their past 2 matches. They have been much closer than their previous ones, but it seems like JWM, against all odds, that train never stops. It can be slowed down, but it eventually pushes through. And today, they're going to have to push through their biggest opposition yet in Osiris League, Ovie, the Overlords. And so we're about 4 minutes away from the match. Before we get into this match, there are a couple of things we need to mention for you guys. First and foremost, this cast has been brought to you by Lilith Gaming and the sponsored creators of Rise of Kingdoms, 3 of which will be casting today's match. We're talking about myself, Siskel Gaming, and Drago is here with us as well. He'll be joining us. They both will join us momentarily when we go into the open field. Again, the links for all those channels in the description down below if you want to come say hi and, show your appreciation, get to know the content creators. We are out there for you guys. And again, this is also brought to you from Lilith Gaming. A few of the things you should keep your eye on very early on in the match is we're going to take a look at all these rallies. We say it every single time, but this time around, we've seen that both these alliances can land rallies on enemy obelisks. And so we're going to keep a very keen eye on the rallies that keep marching. We're going to try to do our best to spread around 3 content creators, 3 points of view, scattered across the map, trying to see if we can catch those moments in which things turn. The things that we're looking at early on is first occupation bonuses. We are expecting both teams to be able to hold on to their side of the map. And then from there, we will see which team commits how much to the Ark of Osiris in the center and how early they do so. The match hopefully will be one that we cannot predict. We definitely love to cast these matches where we think we know what's going on, and the next thing you know, you go look this way, you look that way, and everything changed. So hopefully we'll get to watch some amazing plays. And remember, this is it. After this, there is no more Osiris League. If any of these guys have any cards up their sleeves, if they've tricks they haven't done yet, if they have strategies, tactics, whatever it is, this is for everything. Whoever wins this is the champion. And so I don't think any of these sides are going to press the brakes at all. They're going to let everything out and do everything they can to win. Right now in the chat, let me know. I'm looking at you, beautiful people. Who do you guys have as the winner of this match? Hashtag Ovie or hashtag JWM. Let's take a quick peek at what you guys have to say. And hopefully within the next couple of minutes, we'll get into the match. We have a few new things we're going to try out through this cast to try to keep you guys in the match at all times. Less crash time, more action time. I see a lot of hashtag JWMs flying by, some OVs in the chat as well. That is awesome. That is fantastic. Look at you guys. Wow, the amounts of JWMs and the amounts of OVs I'm seeing. That is really, truly amazing. Again, with about 1.5 minutes remaining, let's see if I can get Siskel and Drago on here on the line. Kind of, you guys will be probably able to hear them, not see them though. Let's see what they think about this match. We have about 1 minute left before we go into this. Siskel, Drago, are you guys with us?
Yes, what is going on, Governors? Looking forward to casting this matchup. This is going to be incredibly exciting. We personally have battled against Ovie in KVK and in Ark of Osiris League. We know they're very tough, but JWM is the reigning superpower. This is going to be a tough fight. Drago, what are your thoughts?
Man, I can't believe we're here, right? This started in early August, and almost 3 months later, we've arrived. And this is, I think I read in the chat, this is the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. This is going to be a match to remember. This is the new gold standard to watch whenever you're talking about just top level, high level play in this game.
Yes, this is like a superhero matchup. Of course, I love my Marvel superheroes, right? This feels like Hulk and Captain America, or any 2 of these like superheroes going at it. They're both super tough. They both use different powerful strategies and some different tactics. We're going to talk about those observations throughout the match because we noticed some stuff leading up to this that they do very differently.
What I'm really looking forward to more than anything else right now is for these last 2 seconds to go by, because ladies and gentlemen, the open field is here. We can get into the battle. Let's go take a quick peek and make sure that we are in and the match is on, because from here on out, all hell is going to break loose. We already have a packed city. Everybody is in here, 500 plus individuals spectating this match right now. And to make matters worse, there are more joining. Boy, oh boy, we're about to go into the field. Let's go there. Drago and Siskel, I'll meet you guys out there. All right. What we
We
got going
have
on?
arrived.
Bam.
Yeah, we've
Let's-
arrived. Go ahead. Take us away, Siskel.
All right. We have arrived into the matchup. There's a bunch of stuff to look out for here. What I'd like to talk about at the start is some observations that we had. And chat, I'd be eager to hear if you saw some of these things leading up to this very matchup. What I want to talk about is some tactics that these folks deploy that are a little bit different than perhaps I've seen other places. First and foremost, there's an idea that is really powerful in Ark of Osiris League called a counter rally. When you want to attack a structure, you can send a whole bunch of troops together in a rally in Ark of Osiris League. That rally time is 1 minute to load up and get ready to go, which is a very low amount of time. And one thing that people started doing in League that was very effective is this idea of a counter rally, where their huge group of troops is coming at you. The second it leaves the city toward wherever it's going to battle, you launch a counter rally against it. What I have noticed is that JWM is very good at getting those counter rallies going early, but I could be wrong. But I did not notice Ovie running as many counter rallies as JWM did. And when I started to reflect on how they seem to have so many troops in all the right places at all the right times, I think it's because they've already got their marches on the battlefield in those destination locations as solo marches instead of counter rallies. So I'd be interested in your thoughts if this is something you also observed, but this is a very different tactic that they're deploying.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to kind of jump in there and say that this is one of the many tactics that we're just about to start seeing as this match gets rolling. I think that counter rallies are very, very crucial to the success on either one of these sides. We've got both teams pouring out JWM on red on the bottom right. We've got our Ovie blue at the top left. They're going to be clashing here in just a minute, and let's take a peek and see if those counter rallies seem to be what separates these two powerhouse alliances on the battlefield, or if they decide, you know what, let's go ahead and move forward and use our open field to swarm those rallies, depending on what the open field looks like. Gecko, what do you think?
Well, before we even get to those counter rallies and all that good stuff, these marches have to make it through the gates. And Dragothian, I'm leaving this on the screen because I know you love to watch these marches making it out to the field. Before we even start seeing rallies going out and the fight happening, the first stage of Ark of Osiris really is, let's get these first buildings locked in our favor. We're talking about the obelisks as well as the outposts. This is the current first priority for both teams. As you can see, they're both rallying their own as well as rallying their opposition's obelisks. This is a very common play as of right now for the initial area of Ark of Osiris. And from there, we're going to start seeing, just like we see these teams picking up their outposts and picking up their obelisks. The priority right now is, of course, the obelisks, because after they're occupied for 3 minutes, the folks are going to be able to start teleporting within this zone, which is much closer than their initial location. So counter rallies are rallies. We're going to have to wait for a moment as green is reaching the first obelisk for the blue team, and the red team already have their first one of their own.
Yeah, the way that they get there really, really quickly is by using those T1 troops, the lowest tier of troops in the game, available to you at the very start, and they're wearing less armor, so they're a good bit more speedy. So you use the fastest commanders you have available, and boom, run on out, grabbing those structures, and replace those troops with more powerful ones later, and we see that's already happening.
Yeah, and as you can also see, looking at JWM side, they've already captured all 3 of their outposts as they all head towards the middle in their respective positions on the battlefield. And with that being said, I mean, not really super critical, as the match goes on. This is a 57-minute match overall after that countdown timer, but that means that those structures are going to start ticking points a lot faster. And then again, that snowballs, if they aren't taken away by OV, that can definitely cause a ripple effect as the match continues to go on.
Yes, sir. And the thing that's really crucial to notice is, just like you mentioned, JWM did quote unquote win the outposts game, which is not the biggest of deal. But what was a big deal was that bottom obelisk of theirs. It took a little while for them to pick that up. It was the last obelisk to be picked up. The closest one after that, there's about an 11 seconds gap between them and the last obelisk that the folks of Ovie got. That's not a crucial difference. It's 12 seconds worth of teleporting and moving your troops forward. I think you can survive with it, but that's definitely one of those things you really don't want to get caught off guard with, especially if there is a rally marching towards this obelisk. It could have gotten very, very hairy.
Yes. Now, this part of the matchup is not going to be particularly bloody. Everybody's getting into position, but we're now posturing for that first blood, if you will, where the clash starts to happen, and the next tier of structures will become capturable in less than 80 seconds from this moment. We would expect to see the map split half and half down the middle. However, what we often see is that one side or the other tries to bully into taking a structure that is on the opposing side of the battlefield. So it'll be really interesting to see whether or not that's happening. And the structure that they should be hunting for, if they can get it, is these altars. These altars are worth the most points in Ark of Osiris League. There is an initial capture point value that is given to the team that grabs that structure first and holds it for 3 minutes. After you've held it for 3 minutes, you start to get points for every minute that you hold that structure. Now, in addition, there'll be an arc that spawns in the center. We can talk about that in a moment. Do we see that they're posturing forward to battle each other for one of these structures?
Oh, absolutely. They're definitely getting into position. They're already clashing at the top right where the desert altar is at on the OV side, and they are looking to get this first capture. And this is a critical move. JWM has done this time and time again. They have positioned themselves forward to the point where they can start vying for not only their side of the map that Gecko just kind of outlaid for you on the screen, but also they can maybe take that first initial capture and hopefully keep it to where they can take the first occupation bonus, which is a large chunk of points for any team in this particular event to get right off the bat. And if you're taking that, just like they just did away from OV, wow, that's going to be a significant thing to deal with as you try and get that building back. You're not going to be able to move forward. You're going to have to sit there and take it back. This is going to be interesting to see how OV reacts to that initial grab from JWM on that desert altar.
Yeah, this is absolutely critical. I can't believe that they snuck right in underneath OV and took their structure, and two other structures on OV's side still haven't flipped. One just turned over. Wow. So the tactic that they used here is to put themselves between OV and the structure, and they got into the structure first, which meant that now all of the armies that JWM had brought to that part of the battlefield can pour into the structure. And now we're talking about individual marches from OV having to battle into 1 to 1.5 million troops of JWM, which is really, really tough to deal with. And I don't know. I think they may be able to flip it back over in time, but that's a solid play that JWM just pulled off at the start of this match.
So it's important to point out the individuals who did this, right? Because it's not as easy as this seems. But if you keep an eye on the individuals on the map, we can see Lewis as well as Moo and Oopsie. They had 3 marches marching back now, and 2 marches are still in the open field. Plus, I can tell you they all had marches inside the desert altar as well. This is 3 or 4 individuals who have 3 or more marches inside this forward building. And the idea is hold on for dear life. You can see right now, even though they didn't hold, Lewis once again with a frowny face, and so is Grimy, and Moo marching back as well. All these guys, their goal in this first part of the game was, once we take the desert altar, your job is to pull your troops out and put more in. This is something critical. We've been talking about throughout casts and casts again, that defending is much easier than attacking, in the sense that you can always get out of the building and put a new fresh set of troops in it, but you cannot have more than one. While in a rally, once you have your 1 march in, you are locked in and you cannot reinforce it again. So JWM using that advantage for defensive play and making sure they have 3 or 4 players that's only first initial job is to replenish this desert altar. Unfortunately, that play did not work this time around. OV are right up on it, and they take their desert altar back.
Yeah, I absolutely love this part of the match, because right after that 5-minute marker for the Ark of Osiris comes into play, and you just nailed it. That's when the battle at the middle really starts to heat up as people start to position themselves and jockey for position, make sure that they push their opponent to the other side of the map so that they can get a strong posture when they're looking to capture that Ark of Osiris from that temple. This is where the magic happens, and the differences in the strategies and the structure game, the arc game, all these things start to come together in the middle. You'll be able to see how these two different alliances are able to coordinate. You can see the battles happening in the open field right here. You see blinking structures all around you. This is where the extra next level stuff comes into play. This is I can't wait.
Sorry to interject. We got to drop down to the Desert Altar where it looks like JWM has been caught out of position. There's a Touts as the primary commander, which is a mobility commander, not optimal for defending the Desert Altar. And it looks like Ovie rallying with, it looks like an Edward primary. Don't know who the secondary was. They've just flipped the Desert Altar on the JWM side. And it looked like, at least from the view I had, that the wrong commanders were there to defend. We know JWM has some of the very best defending commanders in the game, and if you jump up to the Shrine of War, now huge pressure on that structure. Edward Tamaris laying into the Shrine of War, but Wu Zetian, Empress of Defending. Oh my goodness, she is holding down that structure incredibly well. Whew. It is blinking all over the map, structured and structure, rally and rally. This is nuts.
Yes, sir. One thing to point out is that there are some visual bugs in Ark of Osiris. You guys might be seeing things that are a little bit different. It does happen occasionally. We had a great example of that as Siskel saw Touts leading that defense while I saw the Wu Zetian that was there. So sometimes we will have a little bit of a conflicting view. You guys too watching in-game while listening to our commentary. You should know that occasionally some marches disappear or appear or fly around really quickly. Those are visual bugs. Do not worry. But you know what isn't a visual bug, Siskel or Dragothian, really? These blue buildings, the red buildings that are supposed to stay red are now blue, and JWM are getting pushed hard right now.
Well, I'll say I'm looking at the battle report for the structure I was watching. It was, in fact, Cao Cao and Khan defending in the battle report in the structure. And the attacking army was Edward of Woodstock and Yi Sung Ye. There are so many rallies going on. I don't even know where to look. It looks like Ovie is defending the Desert Altar on their side of the map with Constantine. Now, this is a commander I've wanted to see on the battlefield doing work. JWM rallying with a Saladin primary, and it looks like an Yi Sung Ye secondary, which is a really interesting choice. Yi Sung Ye is a commander that cares only about archers, and Saladin is a commander that cares only about cavalry. But the amount of AoE damage is just so strong from Yi Sung Ye that often you bring him as a secondary commander to a rally in order to bully people away from hitting your rally and to do a ton of damage to them. It looks like Constantine is doing some pretty serious work over here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as we jump in here, right, all four altars are now blue, and 2 are still blinking. But man, these Constantines, Wu has been the talk of the town when it comes to garrison defense and really being the best of the best. But Ovie has proven time and again these Constantine garrison defenses are strong. And as you see JWM trying to swarm these altars, just desperately trying to get them back. Wow, I mean, there's an Edward in the building right now because that's what was the rallier. But man, if they were able to maybe bring in a Constantine or even a Sun Tzu YSG as another army inside of that rally and swap it, that could have been a critical move too. Now JWM taking that altar back, but even just having 4, whether they were captured or not, that is amazing on OV's side, especially considering they lost that building right off the bat at the very beginning. They have come back in a huge way.
Yeah, the underdogs have more of the structures. Even in the Ark is about to spawn in less than 20 seconds in the middle of the map. It's total mayhem there. I honestly, we should all just sound off real quick and sound off in the chat. Is a single Ark of Osiris going to be captured in this matchup, or is it going to be so crazy in the middle that nobody can actually score it?
So
what do y'all think?
I think that to an extent, what we saw here was a little bit of a momentum in terms of Ovie, right? So we've seen this in the past. We've seen JWM take the back seat for a moment in the game as they focus their attention somewhere else. Dragothian nailed that nail on the head real well when he said, we were done with getting this top desert altar, time to focus on the center. Last cast we did of JWM before they made it in the semifinals, we saw them do the same kind of play where they focused first on buildings, went towards the arc next, and now again focusing on buildings as soon as this arc comes to life. Now this arc was already dropped on the blue side. Great start for Ovie. The question is, how do you work your timings? Let me explain that a little bit further. When you take a look at the carrier right now, he has a good probably like 4 minutes, 3 minutes worth of a march if he manages to just march straight on to the nearest outpost. With that, right now, Ovie are in the lead of about almost more than 500 points, 540 points. By that time, they would have acquired such big of a lead that the timings on this arc are very detrimental for JWM, and the play of abandoning the buildings to go for the arc may have backfired really badly at them right now.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Sorry, go ahead, Dragothian. Take it away.
Yeah, I was going to totally agree. I mean, you got all these buildings that are now blinking from the blue team, but man, I think they've already had enough time to really solidify a lot of those positions. And with JWM not being able to immediately capture that arc and really just position themselves effectively while also losing buildings, this is a double whammy in favor of OV, because not only have they delayed or denied, depending on how this arc goes, but they've also captured and disrupted that points per minute flow from JWM, and also keeping and generating points on their own above and beyond what they're supposed to have if they just have their half of the map.
We've got a breakaway. JWM running away with that arc. They're getting out of that crazy mess in the middle. However, the second they get out of the mess in the middle, that means it's a lot easier to target the carrier. The carrier falls down, and folks are going to start to swarm around that. Meanwhile, on the left side of the map, Sky Altar getting hit hard by Saladin primary and Isongye secondary. And we've got old school cool Charles Martel defending that structure, holding it down actually incredibly well, shockingly well. And right now, OV still winning the structure game, holding the Shrine of Life that would belong to JWM. However, Rally about to hit that structure. Freddy at the helm, likely to be Isongye as the secondary for that particular rally. Whew, spicy.
Yes, sir. And it's getting worse and worse at this point because more buildings are blinking for both sides, which means it is time to focus up. We're seeing something interesting. I'm looking at Jan with a full set of his ballistas, tier 4 sieges out on the field. Yes, you guys are seeing this correctly. All the point of this is he wants to get those buffs out by Joan of Arc and not lose necessary troops on the field. These sieges are unnecessary, and therefore he positioned them ahead in early time, and now he's just losing a bunch of sieges. Doesn't matter because he's casting buffs for his alliance mates, and you'll see those sieges leave that building in a moment, and just like that, JWM take their Shrine of Life back, and on top of all that, they're still moving this arc slowly and steadily in their favor. Buildings are starting to go back into their side, so it looks like they have managed to stop the bleeding. They are still losing the point per minute game because obviously there is a 3-minute cooldown after you pick up a building. You can see they're missing an altar as well as a Shrine of Life, and once those lock in their favor, we'll see a 590 points per minute for both sides. JWM losing with about 2,100 point deficit, but once they take this Ark of Osiris that is worth 3,000 points, they'll get back into the lead.
Speaking of taking the Ark of Osiris, yet another breakaway. We've got him in primary, running as fast as he can, taking that Ark toward a safer destination. And this is a set of moves that I really, really like, where JWM is inch by inch moving closer and closer to where they can capture the Ark of Osiris at one of their own structures, and they'll go the mile 1 inch at a time, and they're doing that. And the reason that that's so significant is that as you get closer and closer to your side of the matchup, you can get to this battle a lot faster. OV now has to walk much further down the battlefield in order to contend this particular Ark of Osiris. And I don't know, it looks like they're rocking the structure game, saying, you know what, we're going to hold you off as long as we can for getting this first Ark, but if we get enough structure points, it's not going to matter. We see that the Shrine of War is under attack. Wu's Etienne defending for JWM, however, Slouty leading the rally with Yi Sung-Ye secondary to an Edward primary is doing serious work with Swarm to support it, and I don't see counter rallies. I have not seen a single counter rally all matchup. We see also JWM has a rally rolling against Constantine. Yet again, that Saladin rally is looking really strong into the Desert Altar. I mean, there's too many structures to talk about. Dragothian, where are you looking?
Yeah, I'm actually I keep tapping the screen, just looking at all the different things that are happening simultaneously. This is where I wish we really had a 4x4 screen here where we could see all the different action at the same time and see all the damage and the troops and the armies and the rallies happening all at the same time. But until that technology happens for us, really I have to keep an eye on this arc. And you talked about it earlier. Where are the counter rallies? Well, I think they're all in the middle. They're the armies and the players that usually are probably doing those counter rallies in defense of their own structures probably had to pull some folks to the middle. They probably have their communication going, guys, we need to get this arc. We need it now. We need to get back in this fight and even thing up and solidify our positioning so we can push forward. Because right now, just looking at this match, Ovie is really kind of, even though one arc can change it, which that's close enough to JWM, and he's walking away with it right now. This is still very much a game where, to me, Ovie is really kind of dictating how this match is being played.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I don't even know where to look. I keep swapping from place to place. I think that Ovie is playing the structure game heavily early, and that's a strong play. The reason that is such a strong play is that over time you can accumulate so many points if you fight structures at the start of the matchup. And I am inclined to believe that both of these sides may have stumbled onto something that is very important for how everybody plays Ark of Osiris League, which is that perhaps a counter rally is more cool than efficient or effective. And this is truly a battle of efficiency. You need to be in all of the right places at all of the right times, and managing 5 marches across the battlefield is really not trivial. Gecko, what are you thinking about what you're seeing here?
I've been saying this for months and months, that as much as it seems like it's easy to control all these marches, when all hell breaks loose and now everybody's comms are going completely crazy because, we're always used to being on the driver's seat until you aren't anymore. That applies to anyone who had to meet a tough opposition like JWM are with Ovie and Ovie with JWM. So I think that these guys have started minimizing things down and trying to read each other out first on the first half of the match. You can see Major had a counter rally on this rally. Instead, he broke down the counter rally and went on to having these troops available to refill the building. They're looking to hold on to the building more than they're looking to do the damage. I think that what JWM have recognized in Ovie is that they love to swarm. And so why would you go against a counter rally on a rally when there's a full swarm going crazy? JWM adapting their strategy and tactics into now using counter rallies to move marches forward, but then keep those in the buildings and let the building, a united front, fight against the big swarm that Ovie keep offering. And it seems that this has been starting to work out. They adapted and adjusted, and look at the game, the buildings game right now.
Very interesting strategy. Very interesting strategy happening, Siskel. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they're moving that arc, not to a building, but to a safe zone. Take it away, Dragothian.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious. I mean, they have shown this match that Ovie can really kind of put their pedal, the pedal to the metal when it comes to taking structures. And usually when you're on the receiving end of that and not really able to stabilize, which they have at this point finally done that as is JWM, usually you want as many arcs as possible so that you can continue to position yourself in the middle and get those arcs, to get those 3,500, 4,000 point arcs to help even up those buildings that you're losing throughout the match. Is this them basically saying, listen, now that we don't have to be in the middle, if we've got the arc, if we don't have to be in the middle, we can beat you at your own game? I'd be interested to see if that's what they're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, that's what this tells me of their strategy. Their strategy is to win the structure game and hold one arc to tip them over the top, and they think they can win the structure game. They think they can win it. It's the only reason you take the arc to a safe house and not score it is if you think you're better at the structure game or good enough that you can stay close enough that you drop your arc in, score the points, and it's game over. So I think that's a pretty cool strategy. However, look at this. John Wick coming in to try to take out the carrier. Of course, they're so far in the backfield, it's not going to particularly matter. Let's find a good rally to watch. Gecko, where are you looking?
So I'm trying to find what's going on next. There's a bunch of swarms by Ovie happening. It looks like, again, JWM stabilized their gameplay. They realized the number one thing Ovie love to do is, just like you mentioned in the beginning of the cast, Siskel, they love to swarm. They position those troops up on the top, and the reason they're always everywhere is because they rally a little bit less, but they put themselves on the open field for a swarm a lot more. Are there rallies happening right now? I don't really know necessarily that there's any rally that is going to tip this game around, but what I am seeing is I have to touch on a statement that you made that I cannot necessarily agree with, which is, why do you take an arc to the back? I don't think JWM were necessarily saving this arc so it's the only arc that appears. I think that they understand that they won the center game, they won the middle game. And now they're in the phase of figuring out the structures game. As you can see, they've gained back control. They had a little bit of the lead, and now they're back to having half of the map. I think that once JWM, they're trying to isolate problems. They know that they have the arc in their control. If they deliver it right now, they cannot necessarily guarantee they'll have everything in control again. I think that once they stabilize a bit more and you start seeing them get a bit more aggressive, a little more counter rallies happening, a little bit more presence on the map, we're going to see this arc get delivered and at least one more happening in this match. I don't think they're holding it as like we will last second submit it and win, but just they're trying to make sure as many variables are in their control as possible, and they're only letting go of those that they really need to.
That's a great call out, because if you look in the center of the map right now, Ovie is dominating the Ark of Osiris, the temple area. So if they were to capture the Ark of Osiris now and JWM were to drop that in, they get the 3,000 points for that capture. However, the area really is in tight control by Ovie at this moment in time, looking at a dozen or so marches sitting in the area there. Noon, the only player from JWM with a Richard I getting swarmed down there. I think that's a pretty good insight, Gecko, that maybe what they're doing is just waiting until the battlefield looks favorable, and if it doesn't look favorable, guess what? You just hang on to it until things look spicy. Dragothian, where are you looking?
Yeah, I'm all over the place too. I'm actually staring still, and it's to stare at the arc carrier just sitting right beside that obelisk, but I'm also looking at the desert altar right above it, and there's another Wu taking a swarm along with a rally. There's tons of JWM there with counter rally coming in, with also swarms of their own swarming that rally. I mean, that's just what you're going to start seeing all over the map, because just looking at what you all just said, right? JWM knows this is a 3,000 point arc. They are currently 1,900-ish points behind with an even points per minute total. That means if they can keep it exactly even the way it is, defend every single structure they've got and not lose a single structure, all they got to do is cap that thing at the end and they win. I'm interested to see if they do that.
Can I admit something incredibly embarrassing and ridiculous, which is that Gecko's been talking all season long about provisioning.
Oh, no.
I'm not saying that this is a great idea, but what if, and I'm just saying what if, my tinfoil hat goes on, the intention is to cap a bunch of hidden points at the very end. So the way provision works is that you go to one of these caravans in the middle. The Gecko Cam can, I'm sure, take us to one of these caravans. They've got some number of reserves contained within them. You go and you gather them. Guess what? Those gathering commanders you have a use in Ark of Osiris League. Normally, my recommendation would be that you only do gathering or focus on gathering if you don't have enough other powerful troops and powerful commanders to make a meaningful impact on other parts of the battlefield. And that's a great way to get some points as sort of a side hustle while you're doing a whole bunch of other things. However, the thing that is pretty sneaky about these caravans is that you could run around the map with a single army collecting a bunch of these caravans, and then at the end cap in, and the score jumps up in your favor in a way that's unexpected.
Yes, sir. And we saw, I kind of wanted to show you guys around the map a little bit, 108 million power player Cammy, who is leading rallies, who is on the open field, who's doing everything, has 2 marches right now gathering provisions. That is 108 million power player with enough tier 5s to make us all very jealous, but still, well, at least a good part of us in here. And yet he's still gathering. How is that a thing? Why is that a thing? That is because it is just like you said. There are 2 factors in this whole match that are meaningful for points. Are your points based on time, or are your points based on effort? When it comes to Ark of Osiris and provisioning, it's all about effort. At the end of the day, once the Ark pops, you can put as much effort into it to get those points that have nothing to do with time. You can get 3,000 points in a minute, or you can get them in 20 minutes. Same goes for provisioning. The game that relies on time is the points per minute game, which is the buildings. If you focus on making sure you have enough presence on the buildings, on the points per minute game, as well as on the points that you can control by gathering, like you said, and holding on to the march, or by controlling the Ark, that's a crucial thing in Ark of Osiris. That's a huge part of it. It's half of the game, really.
All right, Dragothean, help me out here. I'm trying to break down the play that we just saw. JWM has captured the Ark, even though they don't own the Temple of Osiris area. What do you think is behind that decision?
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at what they have left, time left, right? You got 28 minutes left or so. Captured it about, 2 minutes ago or so. They don't necessarily have to own it right now. What they're doing is they're completing their structure rallies. They're setting up their defenses. They recaptured their outpost. They've got 2 or 3 minutes to go ahead and start repositioning correctly. And when I'm looking at the middle here, yeah, Ovie owns the middle, and you can start to see JWM starting to posture, right? It's going to be another 7 minutes just until this Ark spawns, and then you know as well as I do, this is going to be another 15, 20-minute battle in the middle trying to get this Ark out. And with JWM being up now over 1,100 points, this is going to come down to the very, very end. This Ark's going to be very interesting to see.
There's one thing worth pointing out right here is that at some point, when you hold on to the Ark for long enough, your opposition is going to be like, well, we might as well go do something else with these marches, right? So I think JWM's play was really interesting. They recognized Ovie owned the center, but they also recognized that the longer these guys keep going, the most likely outcome is that those middle marches will give up on the middle and go help the buildings game. What they did is they held the Ark long enough, and now they submitted it. And for another 7 minutes, all of these marches, 10 plus marches that have been sitting here doing nothing, now they are not going to back off. They're going to stay here, and more are coming in. So to an extent, JWM are dictating where are these marches going, because they got John Wick locked in here for the last 5-10 minutes. God knows how long he's been waiting for this Ark. And now he might have potentially given up. The moment he started backing off, here comes the Ark again. And now it's just a complete game of trying to make sure Ovie don't play their game. They're trying to reposition troops, and look at the JWM troops making their way towards the center. 5.5 minutes remaining. Do you honestly think that center is going to stay the way it is, Siskel?
I think it's going to turn into a heck of a fight, and with so many marches committed to the middle, I wonder, it looks like right now Ovie has very, very strong positioning in front of the Temple of Osiris. Let me tell you why that matters. If the battle stays in between where those armies are right now, where JWM currently is and where Ovie currently is, that means Ovie has a clear line of sight to the temple to pick up the Ark and to run it back to safety. And what that means is that if JWM wants to contend them, they're going to have to run through all of those blue marches, taking all of that damage without being able to fight back because they're busy marching toward the carrier. So if JWM doesn't push into this mess within the next 4 minutes and 30 seconds to contend the temple area, they are going to have an uphill battle to try to stop the Ark, because Ovie gets free hits on all of those armies as they desperately try to make their carrier. I think it's an interesting set of choices. I don't know what choice I would make in their shoes. Obviously, it's tough to make that call. However, if you look down at the desert altar, it looks like Ovie leading a rally now with Edward as the primary. Wait a minute. The rally canceled? They took the desert altar. So this structure game has been going back and forth, blow for blow. Right now, Ovie now winning the structure game, 590 points per minute to 440 points per minute. Dragothean, where are you looking?
I'm looking at the other altar at the very top right, and that's the Sky Altar, again, held currently by JWM, defended by Wu. And it looks like Ovie really has a successful idea on how to take a structure, especially a Wu-led structure. They've got a rally, and they never, never, never send a rally by itself. They've got 3, 4, 5 armies sitting right there in defense, ready to go ahead and try and swarm and rally. And it looks like they're going to go ahead and hold it with JWM. But that being said, I mean, you've got a counter rally from JWM, you've got the rally from Ovie, you've got tons of swarm from Ovie as well. I mean, it's just there's so many things going on, and with this building being so close to JWM, it's easier for them to defend versus Ovie pushing. That's why they've got so much support with that rally breaking from Ovie. So much support there, because just because the rally's over doesn't necessarily mean the attack's over. It's still going. We're still taking damage, and JWM cannot let up. They've got 4 or 5 armies just walking back to their cities right beside that obelisk instead of turning around and facing those 5, 6 armies that are still hitting that altar.
Yes, sir. We saw a rally breaking right next to this sky altar. The rally was meant to go somewhere deeper in the match, but it seems like Boss, who was leading that rally, recognized that this sky altar needed a little bit more in it, and so that's what happened. The rally broke, and now they went back in. Sky altar resecured. And it looks like there is still a swarm happening here, but the building has a decent level on it. Again, if you guys are seeing the health bar, it does not reflect the actual status of the building. The health bar is for the total troops that have been part of this fight. And so this could be a full building. It's just that there was that big of a fight that a full building doesn't fill the health bar anymore. It looks like JWM thought perhaps Ovie are backing off. One March walked out, but Ovie are still questioning whether they're going back and forth. Here's the deal, though. We talked earlier about why you deliver an Ark of Osiris. I think JWM kind of overthought that a bit too much, because they delivered the Ark in probably the worst possible time. That was as soon as the folks of Ovie started really stepping up their structure game. They took an altar away from JWM, almost took a second one, and now they have massive presence around the Shrine of War, swarms everywhere. Is this what we saw? This is exactly what we saw the first time around, right? We saw Ovie taking over the buildings while JWM focused the center, and then all of a sudden it changed. But look at what building got taken out. Look at what happened at the top. Ovie taking a sneaky obelisk away from JWM, trying to be a nuisance. John Wick, man, oh man, this guy's been walking around picking up buildings left and right.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point here, which is that some of these buildings that you want to be defending, you can't be everywhere at once. You got to make choices, priority choices here. And that sometimes means you leave certain structures undefended. Often that ends up being the obelisk in the backfield. If you leave that obelisk undefended in the backfield, someone might just walk right in and take it.
Yes, John Wick living up to his name, isn't he? He just literally is just sifting his way through all those different armies of JWM just sitting around them. And just like that, the Shrine of War going in favor of Ovie as well. And if you look at the middle, look at the difference. So when we last took a look at the middle, it was basically the Ovie show. Now it looks a lot different. You got JWM up front pushing Ovie back. Again, we said that from the get-go. With this arc going to spawn in 10 seconds, this is going to be a match to the last second, everybody. It's a 300-point game right now, just almost 400, with Ovie having a significant points per minute advantage at the moment, and also having a structure advantage at the moment too. Just need to recapture those 2 outposts on their side that are red. Other than that, I mean, they are really putting it to JWM from a structure game, and this is exactly what happened at the beginning, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what do we think this is going to come down to? Sorry, take it away, Gecko.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that what we're seeing right now is literally the same exact thing we saw in the beginning of the match, where JWM shifted their focus from buildings to center, and buildings went down. And now that they have the center, we're going to see them potentially carry this arc further. This time around, there's much more presence from blue, because from Ovie, of course, since they own the Shrine of War, they had some work, and they had their work cut out, really. They could make their way from the back and really cut off this JWM march. There was such a big presence on the Shrine of War in terms of a swarm that it's now coming up from behind JWM. It's going to be a problem for JWM, because it looks like there is much more blue presence this time than last time. One thing important to point out about the center, it's so hard to do what Ovie are doing right now, which is show up with 10 marches, at the same time. This is why people like to own the center, because once you own it, it's okay if you triple marches in. But when you're trying to retake something like this, you need all your marches to get there at the same time, and sometimes it's just too hard to coordinate. I don't know if this arc is going to go in the favor of JWM, but I can tell you the whole map is going in the favor of Ovie, and if JWM don't wake up to it really quickly, they are not going to be able to close in this lead, which Ovie are starting to gain.
Oh my goodness. I want to piggyback off of what you were saying here about being in all these places all at once, which is that the mental load in Ark of Osiris League is actually really intense. When you've got to focus on all these different objectives, all these different places, and all these different priority decisions, if you can create a world in which you have to make less of those decisions and do less thinking, it's actually better. Because you can do a better job in the one part of the map where you're focused rather than being all over the place. What are you thinking, Drago?
Yeah, that was actually exactly what I was about to talk about. So what these two alliances have done, and you can see it because the same players are in the same locations every single time you move your screen to the part of the map that they're at. They've assigned one person to do one task, knowing that they understand what their role is, not only just by themselves, but in conjunction with the entire master plan. So having Slouty make sure that that Shrine of War on the right side stays blue. That's his objective. That's what he does. Then whenever that is captured, him and anybody else that's in support of him come behind where that arc is at and go ahead and help capture that area. Or if the arc is already running, get the arc, move it back in the blue direction. That's their role. They have a very simple, straightforward task. Simple in the sense that it's not hard to overcomplicate things, but not simple in the sense that they're going up against one of the best alliances in the game in JWM. Gecko, what do you think?
Listen, all I see here is Ark of Osiris going back and forth between red and blue, which I really like to see. I love the fact that the folks in Ovie are focusing the carriers consistently, and they in JWM are kind of missing that part out. They're not noticing that their carrier is running forward and they're fighting the fights in the back. Remind you, you can literally walk through marches, right? So ideally, these marches shouldn't be fighting up on the top, but rather being a cloud around this arc carrier, or else trouble can brew. I think that the map is slowly making its way back to red. Just like we saw in the beginning, there's a little bit of a lead still, 190 points per minute in the favor of Ovie, and they are gaining. They're about a 1,200 point lead, 22,700 against 21,220 for those of you listening, not watching. We're about 17 minutes out of this match ending. JWM look to have the arc more in their favor, but their point per minute game is really their big problem right now, and hopefully in a moment we're going to start seeing buildings changing, and again Ovie potentially taking this arc. I'm hoping to see an insane turnaround on all these plays in the last 16 minutes and 59 seconds remaining in the match.
But is there enough time left? Is there enough time left to actually break away with the arc and score it?
I think so.
Yeah, we got 17 minutes-ish left. I think that's definitely doable. They've got their structure right there. I think that's a sky altar. No, it's a desert altar. That desert altar right there beside the arc, it's definitely doable. We still got plenty of time. But again, does JWM do the exact same thing that they did before? Do they go ahead and snag that arc and try and hightail it back to their obelisk so it's hard for Ovie to grab it, and at that point take the extra 10 minutes or so they may have left to reshore up their structure game, provision their butts off, and then take that last 3,500 points for the victory? Is that the plan?
I have no idea.
All I know is that if the final match is down to provisions, I think I have to eat my hat. Isn't that how this works?
I will gladly mail you a Gecko gaming hat for you to eat live on stream if you'd like, my man. Just let me know. I just made new hats. I'll definitely mail you one to eat. Trust me when I tell you those provisions. I was just going to tell you guys, I need to ask both of you of a favor, because I am kind of like the cameraman too. Keep an eye on the score, please, towards the last 5 minutes, and let us know that everybody, really, one of you, or both of you, one of you, just keep an eye to make sure those numbers don't jump, because we need to keep an eye on the score very closely. It's so close with the arc going back and forth. Now it's in neutral territory. It was just blue. Buildings are still blue. We could see provisions being what changes this game. We have to keep an eye on that. Chat, I hope you guys are enjoying this cast. If you guys are, make sure you drop a like on the stream, and of course on all the channels of all the awesome content creators spending their afternoon chilling with you guys, or morning with you guys casting this arc. Man, 15 minutes remaining. I did not think we'd be where we are right now when we started this match, truthfully.
Oh, I totally did. I totally I saw this coming a mile away. This is going to be, I think Siskel asked before, in the pregame, in the pre-chat there, what's the score going to look like? And I think I had them separated by about 1 point with a plus or minus of 2 points. So I knew this was going to be a close match. Both of these teams deserve to be here. They beat the best of the best. And as this match continues on, Ovie's still owning that Shrine of War for the time being, although it looks like it's going to go back in favor of JWM. And then also Rally's going out. I mean, Arc is going to be critical here. It's going to be super critical. That's 3,500 points instantly. And then when you combine that, like you both have said, the provisioning scores that continue to come in, it's about a 1,400-point game at the moment in favor of Ovie. Ovie having the Arc right now, by the way, and bringing it right up the middle back to the blue side, or at least trying to. Just dropped again. They're going to be trying to grab it. They want to stay inside that scrum. They want to stay inside that swarm of 50 armies, so they can hide and John Wick themselves all the way back to the blue side and hopefully capture it and lock in this victory, claiming league champion of season 1 in Osiris League playoffs.
Dragothian,
I
want to interject for a second, Siskel, and you asked Dragothian about if there's enough time on this arc. You did. You literally just 2 minutes ago asked us, do you think there is time? Dragothian and I have counted down to the last second at some point to see an arc, but now your question becomes more relevant than ever, Siskel. Is there enough time?
I don't think there is. That's why I asked it before, because I was looking and I was like, I don't know. If you're winning the structure game, then you're going to just battle like crazy to make sure that, hey, you can't capture the arc, because capturing the arc is hard. It's easy to keep it where it is in the middle and prevent anybody from going anywhere. And that is what I think is happening right now. I think it's going to be very challenging no matter how many marches Ovie or JWM sends into this area. It's only going to get more chaotic as more people arrive here, and the more chaotic it is, the harder it is to do anything with this Arc of Osiris.
It is absolute chaos in the middle. Absolute chaos. This arc is still going back to the blue side. They are really, really putting it to JWM and slimming down JWM's forces. You see Noon, Jim Bao, you got Pepe, and then on the OV side, tons of folks just pouring into the middle. Just everywhere you've got players going and trying to make sure that arc stays in their favor. It does drop, but I see people trying to pick it up already. They want to stay inside that middle scrum of players, and I see so many more people that are blue coming to this arc than I do see that are red. So this is going to be interesting. If Ovie can capture this and continue to bring it back to the blue side, maintain the structure game, we've got 12 minutes left. I think there's plenty of time, Siskel. I really do, and I think that if they can capture this under 8 minutes, they can go ahead and solidify the game by keeping their structures, continuing to provision, and they'll win. That's the winning strategy right there.
Yeah, toward the very end of the game, and we are at that point, you can start to abandon some of these structures and to make riskier plays. You've heard me mention this before. You've got to play to win rather than play to not lose. Playing to win means you've got to make some risky choices in order to get the points that you need to win the match. And I'm actually a little bit surprised to see that Ovie actually seems to be dominating the center of the map. They actually have cleared out enough of JWM's armies that I think they're getting away with this thing. And as I was describing earlier, if you get far enough down the field, you now force the opposing side to walk through dozens of your armies, getting slaughtered along the way, free hits being delivered on those armies as you try to walk by. Man, I don't know that JWM can get to this arc. And if OV brings this arc back, I don't think there's enough provisions in this matchup to tip it over. And then I don't have to eat a gecko hat.
Well, here's the thing, right? One of the most important things I think we've seen today is presence in the center has to be timed correctly. You saw in the beginning of this arc, blue were massively here, and then the folks of OV were massively owning the center. Then JWM came with a cloud and took it over. And then the little bit that remained of OV did exactly what it had to do. It just delayed. It kept delaying it enough for a cloud of blue marches to start making their way towards the beginning of this center, and then they all pushed together at once. When they all pushed together at once, they created exactly what JWM created previously, which is a cloud of presence. Once that happens, it's so hard to stop the arc from moving. And honestly, I don't see any JWM marches anywhere that will be capable of stopping this. Unless JWM somehow take the buildings Ovie are heading out to, which is the outpost of Iset, and this person is like not even a minute away from that. This could be huge. 3,500 points going towards blue means they're going to be at 31,800 points, which means almost a 4,000 point lead, more than that. Almost a 5,000, 6,000 point lead, something like that. And
lots of points.
You can't gather that much. You cannot. What do we do then? What does JWM do then?
If you think Ovie is not provisioning their butts off as well, I'm sure you're sadly mistaken. I know that they may not do it as well as JWM, as JWM has kind of made a name for themselves on provisioning, but I guarantee you, because I know I've seen a couple big chunks of points pop on when there was an arc not captured in favor of the blue team. I've seen it happen throughout the match. They have got to be doing some provisioning throughout this and knowing that they don't necessarily have to have 10,000 provisioning points, but maybe 7,000 will do, alongside of capturing an Ark of Osiris at the very end, owning the objectives, winning the structure game. Ovie has done a fantastic job at making sure that they're where they need to be, when they need to be there, and at what strength they need to be there. That's the other piece that a lot of players really don't understand in this type of event. It's not necessarily where you're at, but you need to have the right amount of people there. Just as effective as having too many people is having too few people. If you have too many, those players are not elsewhere taking structures, building up provisioning scores, being available for the arc capture. You need to be very selective with where you place your troops.
And there goes John Wick. Yes, sir, Siskel. We're looking at the same thing, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, he was throwing shade, baby. Those South shades as he goes in and he caps the arc, bringing the score to a solid 32,747 to 27,940. This tips things majorly in the favor of Ovie, who now is at a point-for-point equal gain in the structure game, which means, Gecko, it all comes down to provisions. Does Ovie have enough provisions that they can hang on to their lead, or does JWM have enough provisions to beat however many Ovie's got left in the tank and the deficit of points here? This is crazy. If Ovie wins this matchup, that means that a small number of people will have won a huge number of Oryx out of this matchup. Woohoo!
And Siskel, there are about 2,800 people watching this cast right now. Thank you all very much for all your awesome support throughout the season. The one thing I am most happy about out of this whole situation is that about 8 minutes before the match is done, we have gotten Siskel Gaming himself to proclaim provisions are the determining factor of this final. It took a whole season worth of convincing, but finally you're starting to see that light that Constantine is shining on this Shrine of Life. Let's get back a little bit into the action, though. 3 altars in the favor of JWM.
No. Before we get back to the action,
you want to rebuttal?
Just gonna skip over all that.
I eat the hat if provisions make the difference, but if provisions don't make the difference, then does that mean you eat the hat?
I will definitely not eat a hat, but I'll gladly send you one for you to keep and not eat. How about that?
I'm so glad I'm not in the middle of any of this. I'm just watching the match and having a great time and watching all this battle happen. And wow, I mean, just the blue team and the red team, JWM and Ovie, just having a blast. I know they are, both still fighting it. We've got just over 6 minutes left, and I still think there's time for JWM to come back, but they need to make some of those Siskel risky plays to make this happen. They need to take over the map. They need to provision their butts off. They need to be sending a couple fast cav to the back end where those outposts are at. Take those, and then also take those fast cav marches and start killing all the provisioners. That way they can't bring all those provisions back. I mean, they need to be doing some serious moves to make this thing happen, being just over 4,000 points down, almost 5,000 points.
Yes. Now, just a smidge of logistics as we get toward the end of the matchup here. I would like us to sort of summarize some of the trends, some of the patterns, and also some of the cool stuff we saw over the course of this matchup. Drago and I have our own Ark of Osiris battles happening literally right after this ends. So the second this ends, Drago and I maybe give 30 seconds of commentary, and then Gecko will, of course, bring you the full breakdown of what he saw and whether or not I'll be eating a hat. And
I think we agree on that. You won't be eating no hats today.
If you want to see more Ark of Osiris League. You can, of course, go to any of our channels. I'll be live streaming right after this. All right, Gecko, where are you looking?
So we're looking at a Desert Altar right here by JWM, who owned it for a little while. Now they don't own it anymore. Ovie took it back. That was critical for Ovie because it was a minute and a half remaining on that cooldown, and then JWM would gain 300 points per minute. That meant that they would get 1,200 points more than Ovie in the last 4 minutes. Remind you, this is not over. As of right now, JWM still have 600 points in their name more than Ovie does, which means they'll close this 4,400 point lead down quite nicely by a good 600 points. And even further now, 4 minutes remaining, and now JWM getting 230 points per minute. That means they're nearing that 1,000 points until the end of the match, which means the lead isn't this big. You're still adding another good 1,000 points in favor of JWM that Ovie will not get. So this match is by no means over. If JWM managed to take away this one Sky Altar at the bottom from Ovie, they will not have altars taking points for them. And it looks like this Sky Altar is very, very weak, and it has a lot of blue around it. But still, if this falls, that's the little bit of points JWM are looking for. Remember, points per minute and 3 minutes remaining still.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Sky Altar does look like it. It looks like it's the Ark. There's so many battles happening around it. I think that, JWM is not out of it, but they're definitely by one finger off the side of that cliff. They just need somebody to come help them and grab their hand and bring them back from the edge and get back into it. But I just don't think Ovie is willing to be that fair partner. They're going to go ahead and stomp on the proverbial finger of JWM and let them fall into the chasm. I really think that's the way it's going to play out. They've just got just under a 4,000 point lead in favor of Ovie, and I think that's all they're going to need to make this happen and bring home the championship in favor of Ovie for season 1. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Who has heard in the chat? Who has heard of Ovie before? That's what I want to know.
Having battled against Ovie in KVK, having battled against Ovie in Ark of Osiris League, and getting, honestly, pretty solidly trounced, we knew they were good. We knew they were really good, because White Tigers are pretty fierce, and Ovie did work against us. So, I don't know. This is a little surprising, but not that surprising. They are super strong. Yeah, I don't know. Dragothian, what are your thoughts on some of the commanders you've seen here on the battlefield? Does this change the way that players should invest in their own collections?
Well, I think, people, like I said at the very beginning, people have been really talking up Wu as the commander to have for Garrison, and that may still certainly be the case, right? I think Wu is a strong commander and one of the best, if not the best, Garrison commander in the game. But for Ark of Osiris specifically, I have been so very surprised with Constantine and his effectiveness on the battlefield. Ovie has shown every week that Constantine is the way to go. And whether they would keep Constantine or switch to Wu if they could get him or get her, I don't know.
They have her, by the way.
They have used Constant. Oh, they do. So, again, and it's not easy to max a legendary commander, right? But with that being said, they have consistently used Constantine throughout the entire playoffs and done very, very well. I very rarely see them lose a defensive structure, which they just did, but very rarely does that happen. And when they do, it's because it's been hit for 5, 6, 7 minutes, and with a minute left to go, just over a minute, wow, it's still getting closer. It is getting closer, I'm not going to lie. What, 2,500, almost a 3,000 point? Oh, wow, it just jumped down even farther. Ovie better pull some provisioning out of their butt to keep that point differential going.
Here comes the provisions. So what that means is that all those armies that were running around collecting provisions are now coming back to their cities with only a minute left.
1,500 points.
They've got to score now. They've got to bring them back now. Wow, we're looking at a difference of only 1,500. This
and
is
it's
really
going
close.
down 1,400.
This is really close.
There's a whole 150 points still coming in from the last 40 seconds-ish, plus you have potential provisions. The numbers are going up for both teams slowly and steadily. If we see a big jump from either team right now, this is going to be over. If Ovie really pulled in a good few more, they are slowly and steadily getting points here. But man, 28 seconds, 27 seconds remaining in the match. We're still looking at about 1,400 point difference. Does JWM have everything they need? Do they have those reserve? Was that a mistake to get that arc in too early? Was this it? Is this it? 10 seconds remaining. My goodness.
Wow.
I'm
Wow.
counting down.
I mean, stuff's still doing it. 5 seconds.
Down to the wire.
And we have our winners.
Wow.
Overlord, the champions of Season 1 of Osiris League, beating the favorite of this match, JWM, by such a small margin. What was it? 1,500 points, less than 1,500 points between these two teams. Major GGs in the chat. Dragotian and Siskel, any final words before you guys dip for your arcs?
This was an incredible matchup. Really appreciated having the opportunity to cast it. Thank you, Lilith Gaming, for creating this situation. Congratulations to the winners, Ovie, and congratulations to JWM for being incredibly, incredibly powerful opponents on the battlefield. This was amazing to watch. We're going to live stream our own arc in the moment, but thank you all for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Both teams deserve to be here. This was a match to the very, very end. Literally just over 1,000-point difference with 2 arcs being captured. I could not be more impressed with both of these teams. I cannot wait to see what the next season of Osiris League brings us. This is going to be an amazing event for many, many, many events to come.
And with that being said, Siskel, Dragotian, good luck to you guys on your matches. We're going to head over to the small little made-up analyst area for a final goodbye and talk to you guys for a moment. Do not leave just yet. We'll be back in a second. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to Ovie, the winners of this first season of Arc of Osiris League. The Osiris League Season 1 is over, and these are your champions right here. Overlord came out of nowhere. How many of you knew who they were before this Arc of Osiris League? Before Osiris League Season 1, I had never heard of them. I'd seen them in Lost Kingdom, but never really paid too much attention. Slouty and all the folks, major GGs. Congratulations to Ovie, and big shout out also to my home kingdom, home alliance, JWM. What an amazing match. It was that close. Congratulations to JWM as well. Second place in Osiris League Season 1. What can be said? Folks of the community, chat, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being so awesome, keeping up with Osiris League casts from day one of the playoffs all the way to now. Next season, we're hoping to bring in something better, stronger, more dynamic in more languages. Everything will be different for next season, hopefully. And with that being said, again, this stream has been brought to you by Lilith Gaming and the sponsored content creators of Rise of Kingdoms. Links are all in the description down below. And we'll see you guys very, very soon on our private channels, as well as potentially on this channel for some extra content. You guys have a great rest of your day, weekend, afternoon, or whatever time it is you're watching this VOD stream or whatever. Now, drop a like on the stream. We drop a like on you awesome people. Thank you so much for all your support and for being awesome and going through this with us. And yeah, what else can be said? You guys have a great rest of your week, and take care. Peace. You thought we'd leave you. You thought we'd leave you. But you guys are right. We haven't looked at the stats at all. I completely forgot. I got so excited about it that we didn't look at the stats. But you know what? Those of you who stuck around a little bit more, we came back because we wanted to look at the stats. I completely forgot about it. I was so excited. Whoo-wee. Okay, let's take a quick peek. Oh my goodness gracious. 17 million heals. 17 million heals in the favor of Ovie against the 6.3 million heals on JWM. Much more kills from the JWM folks and provisions as well. But that arc and the structure game is really what sealed the deal for Ovie. Forgot about it. Sorry, boys. Sorry, ladies. But we're here. We're watching this still. If you guys have any comments, questions, anything, we'll stay on for a couple of extra minutes to answer your questions as an apology for missing out these awesome stats. But as you can see, we have them on the screen. The final score, 36,964 against 35,788. Very, very close. Looks like less than 1,500 points. Man, this was like 1,100, 1,200 point difference. Kind of nuts, right? See the spirit of Ovie. Heck yeah. Look at all those heals, man. 17 million heals. If those are tier 5s, those guys sweat speed ups today to take this win. Score's not so close. The score is score is close, you meant? Yeah, the score was crazy all the time. Ovie healed a lot more. Yes, they did. They also probably came in with less tier 5s than JWM did. 500 million plus power difference between these two alliances in the supposed lineup. So that makes a little bit of sense. I got a lot of coins because of my bet now. Hedvig, congrats. I bet 12 coins on JWM, who are my alliance, and rip coins, right? Rip 6 coins. Pay to win tournament? Vido, not at all. Turns out that money can't necessarily win. A lot of you had the preconception that JWM was going to win because they are all about the money, and yet they're not winning. It's okay. Of course, it's pay to win. What is pay to win? Having the commanders? Probably. Ovie healed more, costed them more, but GG's. I mean, at the end of the day, what are speed ups for, right? They're made for this stuff. Are you saying a free-to-play alliance can win this? There's no such thing as a free-to-play alliance, so no, I'm not saying that. $4K gone, rip. I bet 170K on Ovie. That's insane. That's going to be some major wins. How do you heal 17 million troops without paying? Killing barbarians, getting speed ups. I've gotten days and days of speed ups killing barbarians. When is season 2? That is a fantastic question. Hopefully we'll be hearing about that sooner rather than later. There are a lot of things happening in the background right now that are for season 2 to be a better season than this one. I'm proud of both alliances from Kingdom 50-ish. Old Kingdoms for the win. Hell yeah, man. These guys are unbelievable. Ouvir really stepped it up. Ouvir really, really stepped it up. My win's going to pay for a beer for the entire alliance. Eduardo, if you can tell me how you're going to exchange Oryx for money to buy beer, I'd like to do the same. 25K coins gone. Yep, this is why you don't bet on the overdog. The risk is the slight risk is not worth the big loss. If you would have won, you would have probably gotten like 2K coins. And now you lost 25. I hope season 2 JWM can win. We'll see. JWM will make it there, and hopefully next time they'll come in stronger and better. Think JWM should keep more the first arc? Probably Akis. It was probably bad timing on that arc. Difference in power doesn't mean much. It does. It means how many troops you have available, Arima. The difference in power means that one side had 500 million more troops in power. If you're talking about troop count, that's about 50 million more tier 5s on one side, which means you can see the difference in healing. That's why JWM did not heal as much. It's not because they were saving speed ups. They have much more tier 5s available to them than Ovie do. Insane healing by Ovie, correct. They had to keep up with the power gap, the difference in terms of troops. That's how it works. So usually you'll see the alliance that is the weaker alliance having to heal more. Ovie really went to the wall. Yes, they did. They wanted that win, and that's how you do it. I mean, leaving with a bag full of speed ups at the end of the day is what's the point, right? Those speed ups are meant to be used, and that's what they decided. They used them on healing to win Osiris League, which is fantastic. Amazing job. Both played well. Both played amazing, Bronny. It was a crazy match. I'm very much looking forward to dissecting it down and make a video very soon about how JWM got to the place they did. Show you guys a little bit of strategy, show you guys a little bit of things that you should know about. That's coming up soon too. John Wick there are a couple of John Wicks, by the way, but the John Wick that you're talking about is insane. he's someone I'd like to one day get on the phone with and talk about Ark of Osiris and Rise of Kingdoms. Maybe on the next project that should be launching soon. All right, folks. We've stayed on for a little longer as a mistake I made with the stats. We really wanted to wrap it up and close things out, and I got too excited and forgot about everything else. Anyway, chat, thank you guys very much for being awesome. Thank you, community, to the Rise of Kingdoms community, for being here with us all this time. You guys enjoy the rest of your day and have a good one again, and this time for real. Take care, my friends, and see you sooner rather than later. Peace.